So this is Monday. I've just asked Pat before we come on air what day this was, and Pat has explained it as Monday. Are you telling the truth, Pat?
Yes, Jude, this is Monday afternoon, and you've just frozen, Jude. See, we started as we finished last week. You just froze there for about 3 seconds.
We had a freeze up last week, and we had a freeze start this week. Anyway, not to worry, you're in good form then. I believe it was beautiful weather down in Donegal.
This last 3 or 4 days have been absolutely Spanish type weather. I sat out most of yesterday reading a book outside, out the back with a wee sort of sun trap there. It was absolutely beautiful, Jude.
Donegal's hard to beat whenever the weather's good, but that's a fairly rare occasion actually. But it was lovely here too. Jesus, it was great, you know.
If you could put an umbrella up in the sky, it'd be great.
I put a roof on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get down to business, Pat. We can't be talking idle chit chat. We must get on to the affairs of state. The first affair of state we're going to talk about today is a letter, which is, I think, is it in the Irish Times written up today?
No, it's everywhere today. It's been, I think it was in the Guardian as well.
Oh, that's right, the Guardian. So it's a letter which was signed by quite a number of eminent figures: Peter Hain, Peter Mandelson, Paul Murphy, who was, I explained many of these are former secretaries of state here: Peter Hain, Peter Mandelson, Paul Murphy, Sean Woodward, and then former Chief Constable Hugh Ord and ex-Archbishop Eames of the Church of Ireland, and Chris Patton, who used to, was Chris Patton,
he was under Secretary of State when he was here. Then he went off and became governor of Hong Kong.
Yeah, but he also was the man who led the reform of the
Patent Commission.
In fact, brought in the PSNI after a lot of consultation. So he's very involved. And he's a Catholic too.
Oh, God bless him.
Not that matters. Not
at all.
Okay, what do you think? They're writing about the need for Boris Johnson to be more involved in the affairs here, and they're very concerned that the political state, particularly with regard to unionism and the feeling that they've been painted out of the picture, that's very dangerous. What do you think of A, their judgment, and B, the effect the letter will have, Pat?
I don't know, Jude, as far as I can figure out, now there has been considerable disengagement from London and Dublin now, whether that's COVID, Brexit, or whatever.
Yeah.
Jude, when was the last ever intergovernmental conference? It must be 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember all the optics of Tony Blair and Bertie Ahern and so on, right, left, and centre during all those negotiations. That is very much, I think, of the past. And it seems that Dublin says they're concerned and they've been looking for meetings with London, but Boris isn't playing ball. Now, basically, this is all to do with the reaction of loyalism to the protocol. And these guys are saying this is getting serious, and London, Westminster has taken its eye very much off the ball. Now, the other side of the story, Jude, I think London has been totally dishonest and duplicitous. There's no way the protocol is going to disappear. It took 4 years to negotiate it. There has to be, if there's a hard border, there has to be some sort of rules in regards to getting stuff in and out. Because if they didn't, there's no point in ever being a member of the EU. And I think it reached a stage. I'm going to finish up now. I think maybe there's sort of fatigue, Northern Ireland fatigue in London. I really wonder, do London really care anymore? That despite all the protestations of loyalty to the loyalists,
I think you're spot on there, Pat.
For doing anything.
Yeah. I think that's right. Well, but they never did care, and I think most unionists themselves know that that's the case. But it's it's a hard one to swallow, I suppose. But you know, to be honest, when I looked at the lineup of people: Peter Hain, Peter Mandelson, Paul Murphy, Sean Woodward, Archbishop Eames, pretty forgettable lineup. I know they're all sort of household names.
Yeah, but you've actually probably put they're all from the past.
That's right.
All yesterday's men, yeah. But they lived through what was a turbulent time. There's a sort of an arrogance, or a forgetfulness. I don't know what you take your pick at the minute. To hell, it doesn't matter. And I think Boris Johnson, I was listening to him this morning. Boris has got his own problems at the minute in regard to sleaze. And I think Northern Ireland's way down his priority list. Like this, the one he said he would prefer to have bodies, thousands of bodies in the streets rather than go for another lockdown.
Yeah.
Plus all the allegations of cronyism and sleaze and former Taoiseach, or our Prime Minister, sorry, God see how quick I've changed. Former Prime Minister getting on to the Chancellor about Richie Sunak for a bit of help with his friends. All that swirling around the Tory party right now, the whole sleaze. So I'd say right now, Boris Johnson, the last of a few loyalists protesting in Northern Ireland, it's the last thing he's worried about.
Yeah. Although if there was killings, people began to die. I'd push it back in the headlines. But the thing is this, Pat, I mean, the letter calls on Boris to be, or the British government, to be honest with loyalists in Northern Ireland about the protocol. But I mean, what's the point in that? You know, they don't want to be told that for sure, yes, there is a protocol, and yes, it is going to stay. And yes, we're sorry about that, but they really have to have a line somewhere. Do you think that'll, I don't think unionists or loyalists want to hear that. No. If he's honest, it'll only worsen things.
No, well, I watched Boris today on Sky News talk about a sort of a spinner, you know, a guy. The people of the country are not interested in these allegations. All they're concerned about is COVID and getting back to work and all the rest. Spinning for all he is worth. Like the allegations are spinning around him like hell. You know, telling the truth is the last thing the Tory party ever do. You know, basically, he was spinning like hell today and playing down these allegations. Well, he's not going to tell unionism, like, hey, by the way, this protocol's here to stay. What he's going to tell them is, I am a true unionist and I care passionately about the union and I will fight to my last breath. While he's really he's a total English nationalist.
Well, he said he told them whenever they were objecting the last time, he said that he would sandpaper it and get a few of the barnacles off it.
I remember it was the most insane response. But protuberances and whatever.
Listen, Pat. The fact that you and I remember the imagery he used, that's exactly what he wanted people to do. To say, well, what was he? What are barnacles? Oh, yes, it's a boat he's talking about. You sandpaper that down, do you? And people sort of get caught up in nautical matters and forget about the plane.
I'm just ridiculous. It was you were going, what under God has that got to do with the Northern Ireland Protocol?
I mean, I must say now, I think, you know, the way in Scotland, the Scottish National Party are praying that Boris will come up to help the Conservatives, because that will really add to their tally. I think something of the same would happen if he were to appear and engage with this subject. It would make it worse. It'd be Brenton Behan's policeman arriving and making things worse.
The arrival of him. There's no situation where the arrival of a policeman can't make it infinitely worse.
Or Boris Johnson. Or Boris Johnson. I really believe that. So I suppose they better pray that he stays where he is. Besides that, I suppose he's hoping to, and it is only coming from Britain to the north of Ireland, I think, is a problem in terms of goods. I think that, you know, with time, people will find little workarounds and ways of making the thing a wee bit, well, as he says.
But there was one point that was that, and even I remember Arlene Foster remarking on it, that this could be the best of both worlds for Northern Ireland. And it hasn't proved that so far, because there were definitely shortages on the shelves and there were problems getting stuff sent over. And as I pointed out to you before, I did see ads suddenly with a wee caveat, not available in Northern Ireland.
Well, that's true. I tried to get some from John Lewis and I couldn't get it. He just said, sorry, this isn't available to your postcode. I think you have to accept that. But there's no way out of this protocol that I can see. Except, of course, we all said the same thing about the famous backstop, didn't we? The backstop will stay. It didn't actually stay. The backstop went, but it was replaced by something, you know. It
was replaced by the protocol. So someone has to stick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they have my commiserations. I suppose yesterday's men feel good having their names in the paper again and people talking about them. None of them particularly impressed me during this term of office, I have to say. With the possible exception of Chris Patten, and not just because he's a Catholic, The others, well, Archbishop Eames used to make regular statements, but it was very clear he was coming from a unionist perspective and essentially just saying he wanted peace. Paul Murphy, I can't even hardly remember what he looked like. Sean Woodward, the only thing I remember about him is he was connected with some big, his wife was from the family that owned Sainsbury's or something like that.
She was seriously wealthy. I do remember that. Yeah.
Peter Hain, I remember remember the time he was arrested because he said he was involved in a bank raid?
Yeah.
It wasn't true. I hereby say it wasn't true, but that was kind of funny. As for Peter Mandelson, I just think Peter Mandelson is the biggest waste of space that ever was, and how he got to where he got, I do not know.
I don't know. He was sort of like a guru during the Blair era. Now, he came from a television background and a journalistic background, and I think he was given more credence for his expertise in dealing with the media and all. Now, some of us, I remember the time that Hume was on the go. Like, Hume didn't rate him at all, not at all. No.
Well, I talked to a couple of people in the States for one of those interviews, and when his name came up, they used to make faces, and they really were very dismissive of him. Peter, all those guys, all those names coming with. The
only thing, Jude, you would hope, hope that the prophecy doesn't come to pass. That they are warning, and they are people of experience. So, okay, they might be yesterday's men, but maybe it might be no harm for us. And what do you call him? Brandon Lewis, to take note of what they're saying.
Yeah. Oh, there's another non-impressed person. Anyway, let's go to the second subject. Non-vaccine. There are people, Pat, as you well know, who don't believe in the vaccine. And I can think of, I was going to say, give the game away. There's somebody connections with me, let's put it like that, who has said she will not take the vaccine. Just calmly says it and says, I'm wearing a medal around my neck and that'll protect me. And just says she also believes that some of the vaccines are somehow connected with
abortion.
Man, Mr. Microsoft.
Bill Gates.
Somehow connected with him, and that we're sort of poisoned and controllers or something. But anyway, there are people who have these irrational notions about the vaccines. Does it matter that there are?
It does, Jude, because this last while I've noticed, and if you go on to Facebook or any of the social media platforms, these people are. It started off like a trickle, but now it's become a flood. These sort of conspiracy theorists, at a time of a pandemic, I presume it's easy to con people, but things like Facebook have algorithms, and when somebody gets this idea, now this is all a conspiracy theory, and they go on and they start feeding them more of the same, making them believe this is all the same. And then a lot of these people are now going to all these far right sites where they're getting fed that this is Bill Gates and the globalists are trying to take over the world, and that these left wingers are sort of political correctness gone mad. We need to go back to the old days, and where the good old boys like this. The Trump supporters are a classic case in point. They have basically bought in. Like, forget about the science, forget about the medical people, forget about the expertise, buy the conspiracy theory. And Jude, when you watch some of these people being interviewed on TV, it's quite obvious. Some of these people, they have zero medical qualifications. They have done, but they've read it somewhere on Facebook, and that's enough. And then they go again and they reinforce their own viewpoints. And Dude, all they need is they point to one. Like, know how many scientists say climate change is real, and if you get one said this is all a hoax, the conspiracy theories always go for the one who says it's a hoax, while ignoring the 99 who say it isn't.
Yeah, but Pat, all that's true, and you're looking at somebody who has had 2 jabs of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is the riskiest, one that's going to give you blood clots and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I got those jobs and you'll get your jobs and everybody else will get their jobs. They do it on trust.
Yeah.
Most of us don't know what's gone into our arms. We haven't a clue. I don't know. I certainly don't. They can show me as many big inflated pictures with spiky, big red things on their screen, on the TV screen. I still haven't a clue how it works. But they say I have to take. In other words, I'm taking the word of two groups: one, politicians, and two, big pharma.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about it, both those groups have on occasion told lies to the public. And in some cases, like if you think of thalidomide, I mean, that was a terrible case. So now I'm not saying that they're right and that we're wrong. Of course, I believe we're right. We're right because I took a vaccine myself. But I'm just saying I can understand their suspicion. And secondly, we are taking it on faith. Not on people talk about I follow the science. We're not following the science. We're following what most people tell us. We're going with the flow. And I think we should admit that, really. The real question is, as I say it, Pat, is should people be forced to do the right thing? Now, that sounds like what's the point in saying that? You'd think, well, of course you don't force people to do the right thing. You do it if they're not going to do it or they're going to do it or whatever. But actually, we do force people to do the right thing in a whole lot of things. People have to, you have to go and get an MOT in your car if it's a certain age. You have to wear a seatbelt. You have to observe the speed limit. You have to do a whole lot of things, whether you like it or not. So maybe is this a case where we should be, well, let me ask you, how would you react to both those things? The one that we are taking this on faith. We're not following science. We all are taking it on faith. Deal with that and then come to the second one, which is...
I'll answer it this way. See, today, I think it's something like 353,000 new cases in India. There's 295,000 people dead in India. And there's something like 17 million cases. And if you watch Sky News or an RT last night, people outside hospitals sitting in cars, can't breathe. This is deadly, deadly serious, this virus. And we're getting told that it's a light flu by these people who are trying to this conspiracy theory. Now, if Anthony Fauci, Kingston Mills, everybody I have seen on British, Irish, and American TV, that if these people have all been bought by big pharma and have no integrity or good faith in them at all, right? Then I would say, okay, they're bought. Now, but if you believe that these people are the medical experts, that they're people of integrity, and that they're saying that this is the safest way out of this is a vaccine, I am taking that on the basis that I don't know enough. Like Jude, I'm a former journalist. I have never studied medicine or science like this. I have to take it that these guys are the experts. And Jude, since the vaccines program has been rolled out, it does seem to be working. It seems to be working in Britain. It's certainly working in places like Australia. It's working in where else is it? Well, Britain obviously. The rates gone down substantially in Britain, and even in the south now, the rates are starting to go down despite a lot of very slow rollout. So I'm taking it on faith on the basis that I don't buy that these people are lacking in integrity, and they're all being run by Bill Gates and globalism and big pharma.
But they have told us things. They have gone back. They obviously aren't all that expert themselves.
No, this is a new virus.
It is new, but they said certain things about it, and then they backtracked on that. For example, I remember when the virus started, they said, well, it's not something you want to get, but it'll be like having a severe cold or maybe a flu, but that's it. How wrong can you be? Totally wrong. But they put that out as a fact at first.
I wish I had written her name down. There was a woman scientist came on Sky News way back, probably last February last year, and she said these people, no matter who they are, saying that they know about this virus or this is what's going to happen. She says, with the greatest respect, they shouldn't be saying things.
No, she was right.
She says because this is a new virus. It hasn't been here before, and we don't know enough about it.
But they did say they knew about it, and they did tell people, "Don't be worrying, it'll just be like a flu." So that was the official line.
Was that,
They had to
was
back
that
up
the
on that.
experts? But was that the experts, or was that the conspiracy theorists?
Well, I know it wasn't. That was the official line. I think it was coming from medical people originally.
I don't remember.
Well, I remember that
I
quite
don't remember. I
clearly.
don't remember that. I genuinely don't remember anybody saying. Surely the whole thing from the medical community was they alerted people that this virus is out there and it's quite serious.
They said it was a virus, but they said initially, now this is the very beginning, they said, "Oh well, you mustn't get too upset about it. It's not something we're going to get. We don't want to keep control of it. We can, but if you have to get it, don't worry. It'll be like a flu or something like that."
Well,
they backed off on other things too, Pat. Backed off on several other things.
But the whole thing about virus, as somebody turned around the other day, said basically you can't give a guarantee how a virus will react. Like certain people, me and you can get the virus. I could be perfectly fine. Like, Jude, I know on one family that 2 people in the one house got the virus. The woman got very ill. The husband had no symptoms whatsoever. Now,
but should they not, Pat, should they not say, well, we think this, but we're not sure? I mean, but they said quite definitively that thing about it being just like a cold. They also said things like wearing a face mask won't protect you. Now they're saying wearing a face mask will protect you.
Yeah.
So that's another flop. Why say in the first place it will not protect you if in fact they're not sure? Why don't they, tell the truth?
You're throwing things at me, Jude. I was always of the impression that there was 3 things: wear a mask, social distance, and wash your hands.
But
those were the 3 things I've always been told, and I presume that they were saying those things so that we would protect each other.
Well, I think they're right too, but they weren't saying those all the time. That's my point. They were saying, first of all,
I don't recall this. I very clearly remember saying, wear a mask, wash your hands.
They said, I remember reading articles where they said, people were quoted and they said, look, it'll not actually protect you, but it might protect other people a bit.
Yeah. Well,
that's one thing. Now, at a later date, I heard people saying, well, this thing about washing your hands, well, it's just observe normal hygiene.
Yeah.
So some people wash their hands after they go to the toilet, and some people don't. Some people, when they shake hands with somebody, or they out in public, or they're touching flat surfaces or whatever, sometimes they wash their hands, sometimes they don't. Now, the impression I was given reading some of these articles more recently, well, about 3 months ago now, was, maybe it's good habit to have, but it's not an essential. The mask thing, well, it'll not do you any good, but it'll maybe protect other people, maybe.
Yeah.
The real important thing is the social distance, and the really important thing is being outside. The point I'm trying to make, Pat, is the officials, in terms of politicians and those people in the medical field, in many cases have doubled back on what they said was the right thing or what they were going to do. We saw that in terms of the politicians, in terms of the lockdown. They said, sure, it'll be okay. They sounded like Trump. They said, it'll be gone in the summer. And we all had a grand summer. And then, hell, there was another wave came at us. And then Christmas came. He says, it'll be okay to have a break at Christmas because the people, psychologically, they'll go nuts if they don't have a break.
Yeah.
And then, boom, another wave of the bloody
thing. I
can understand, and to some degree at least, those people who say the whole bloody thing is a big hoax, that there's something going on here that we aren't being told about, and I'm going to steer clear of it. I can kind of understand that.
But I disagree with that. I think this is not an exact science. And as that woman scientist who was on so many months ago said, we don't know enough about it, and we don't know how its pathology. So she was basically saying, and I agree with her totally, it's going to take about 5 years before they can come back and say, look, definitively, this is what did happen. This is what. Now, the vaccines, as somebody said about the vaccines, the reason they can do, my wife studied, science for a while at 3rd level. And she said way back in the 70s, it would have taken weeks to get something done that now can be done with a push of a button. So everything can speed up and people can get it. But it's not an exact science. I heard a guy on the last day saying, look, we're not 100% certain. Another wave could come.
Okay.
But he said, on the best available knowledge, this is what we should do.
Okay. So we'll park that one. I'll take a word on that. It is an inexact science. My point was that they were pretending
Yeah.
that it was, so that they knew, and then they had to back
Yeah.
off from that. But here's the thing. Should people be forced to take the vaccine? Because as we're agreed, when people don't take it,
No.
they're leaving the door open to contagion with other people.
Yeah, well, Jude,
So should they be forced?
I'm not sure of, but here's the point. If I was getting on a plane tomorrow morning, which is not going to happen, but if it was, I think everyone on that plane should produce a vaccination certificate. If you choose not to get vaccinated, that's your choice. And a free society, maybe that's the price you have to pay for it. But hey, I don't want you teaching anywhere near my kids. I don't want you coughing over my kids. I don't want you serving me in a shop. Now, that's your choice. And I don't want you serving in the bar
Pat,
where you can, yeah.
Pat, I take all what you're saying, but why make that, you're saying, talking about it in a free society?
Yeah.
Originally, when they made
because hold on, Jude, because it's your free choice could kill me if you're wrong.
I know, that's my point. I'm saying you're pulling back from the idea of making it compulsory. Yeah. If it's a deadly virus, should we not be treating it the same way we do speeding on the highway or
probably
or
should
MOT or whatever?
Yeah.
So this thing about a free society, it could be a free society because you're looking after the members of the society, and one of the ways you look after them is you make sure everybody gets vaccinated, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure we can go down that road of a democratic. Well, it's coercive.
Well, in a democracy, we would. Sorry, Pat, and I know I'm pushing, and but in a democracy, we don't say, "Well, we'd really like you to wear your seatbelt," or "We'd really like you to take a driving test," or just things like that. We insist on them. So why not insist in this case? Because this is the same thing. You're putting people's lives at risk.
Yeah. Well, Jude, it's someone's. I don't think we've ever gone down the road of coercive and taking of medicine. I'm not so sure how far I would like to go with that. But what I do take your point, Jude. Tomorrow morning, Jude, I'm very aware, on a case not too far from where I'm living, of a person involved stating very clearly that he or she is not going to take this thing. Now, I know members of his or her family are saying if that person does not get the vaccine, they're not coming into our house.
That's a perfect example.
And this person works in a public place, and they're saying if this person does not get the vaccine, by this just simple one example I'm aware of, that they are not going into that person's place of business.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of the kind of thing I'm saying. That if people are allowed to make their own choice, and if they choose not to get the vaccine, it's bad news for any number of other people in terms of even controlling the virus nationwide or statewide. I personally wouldn't have any hesitation. See, there's some people who say, like, having an ID card. You could ask us for an ID card. No, you couldn't ask us for an ID card. I don't mind. I'm carrying a driving license. It's the next best thing to an ID card. Likewise, if you think for a minute, certainly in Canada, I'm not sure what the situation is here, to be honest, but in Canada, there's fluoride in the water.
Yeah, I knew. Funny, that was going through my head when I was speaking about community medicine.
Do you have fluoride, Pat? Do you know? Do you know if there's fluoride in the water?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty certain there is.
Because there was an awful fuss about that originally. They were saying, look, we don't have a choice whether we take this fluoride or not. If you put
this is enforced medication. Yeah.
Well, you see, my view would be, yes, they're dead, right? Because it stopped people's teeth rotting and a whole lot of other stuff. Yeah. So it makes sense to me. I'm just a wee bit impatient, or maybe I just don't understand this thing about civil liberties, where you allow people to make up their mind about some things, but then in terms of other things like driving.
Right, to answer your question, I suppose you're asked the question, and I was sort of trying to avoid answer. I suppose if it came to the whipping of the crutches, I would say yes, enforce inoculation or vaccination, because at the end of the day, I know maybe 5% of the population shouldn't be entitled to sort of endanger 95%.
Exactly. If you're talking about democracy, that's it.
By the way, I would only go for that position in extremis.
So you'd accept democracy in extreme circumstances. Okay.
Yeah.
Pat, what was that phrase you used there? If it came to the what?
The weapon of the crutches.
The whipping of the crutches.
Crutches, yeah, knock the. No, if you knock the crutches away, they'd have to walk or fall down.
Oh, I like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay, okay. Let's move away from this serious, and God, we've talked about it enough times, the vaccine, and let's go a bit of fun. A night out with the classy people at the Oscars. I might have
yes,
got up all late to see it.
did not, Jude, but Jude, sometimes I wonder about all this sort of stuff. As an all-American hype, Jude, the only film I think I ever remember was that got brilliant on the Oscars was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I remember, I think it was the year I got married. I think it was about 1976. And I remember I read all this hype and so on. And I said, can't be as good as that. Can't be. Anyway, me and the wife went to the cinema and One Flew Over, and I remember coming out thinking that is easily the best film I've ever seen. It got me every which way, even emotionally and so on. And it was sort of, what would you say, Jude? Was it a metaphor for life and about freedom and democracy and all the rest?
It's a great movie. And you're saying that the Oscars were the thing that led you to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jude, since then, I've learned that like a lot of the films that were getting chosen were nearly bought. Because when you got this film won 8 Oscars, it nearly ensured the backers were getting 100 million each.
Huge,
and then,
huge.
Then you discovered, wait a minute, a lot of this stuff was, it's sort of bought, that the members of the Academy were being sent off on foreign holidays, and these are the people who could vote for it. And this last while, it sort of lost its prestige because you said, where the old Brit, what do you call them, Brit Awards, or what do we call it? So they were a lot more honest in the sense that there was very little, schmoozing of people, or the films were shown.
Well, maybe you don't know, Patrick. Maybe a bit of you scratch my back this year, and I'll scratch yours next year. Anyway, I took the time, Pat, and you were going to talk about this, and I looked up some of the movies that didn't get an Oscar. Here's a few. Okay, The Big Lebowski by the Coen Brothers. Great movie. A totally great movie.
I haven't.
Bringing Up Baby, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. A terrific movie. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Clint Eastwood. Fantastic. A new genre just burst on with that. His Girl Friday. Again, I don't know if it was Katharine Hepburn, I think it was somebody else, but it was Cary Grant again. Local Hero.
Brilliant film.
One of my favorite of all time. A very gentle, small little movie. Great movie.
My wife's favorite film of all time, Jude.
Good taste. Your wife has good taste. Well, obviously, she's bad taste if she's your wife, but in some respects, she's definitely.
She should have been yours.
Here's another one. The King of Comedy. Do you ever see that one by De Niro? With De Niro, the King of Comedy.
No,
it is brilliant. It's maybe one of the best performances De Niro ever did. It's a harrowing, funny film. Mean Streets. Scorsese's Mean Streets didn't get an Oscar nomination. Well, it got a nomination, I think, but it didn't win the Oscar. Play Misty for Me. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino. And the final one that I could have gone on forever. The Shining.
That was what do you call him? Jack
Nicholson again. Look at that. The line, and if you went and saw what was it that got the Oscar that year, you'd probably find it was some dud of a movie that everybody's forgotten all about. So it's a pretty inexact science. The other thing I would say is this, Pat. I have sort of doubts. I always have doubts about this notion of taking what essentially is a work of art. It's an artistic work, like a play would be or something. A film is an artistic work, and sort of saying this is better than that one.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Second, this is third, and this is fourth, and or they do that. You see, they do that with books too.
Absolutely.
The Man Booker Prize. This is the best. This won the Man Booker Prize, so it must be a great book. Frankly, that puts me off now. And I think it's no way to treat. It's treating artistic things the way you might treat a pound of sugar or a pound of butter.
Jude, one of my favorite films of all time was A River Runs Through It. And I said that to somebody, and anyway, years back when I was working in my other life as a newspaper editor, I said that one day, and this wee girl in the office one that came back and she said, let's sit down and watch that film last night. She's the biggest load of crap I ever came across. She says, nothing happens. And I said, that's exactly the point. It's a story of a life. It's not, I know car chases and sex scenes and shoot ups. It's
Yeah.
none of that happens. It's just a story, and it's one of the most beautiful stories. It's fella recalling growing up in a wee small place, and the father had two sons, and the story of the lives of the two sons. Brilliant story, absolutely.
But maybe you see, you have to be a certain age. I used to find that in
I was
school
quite
when I
young
was
then,
teaching.
but it was one of these what do you say? Lyrical films, lyrical more than there wasn't a whole lot happening. But Jude, the not a lot happening was the very point.
But you see, Pat, if you were 18, you mightn't have been too heavily into lyrical movies. Obviously, there's a market for sex scenes and car chases and explosions. I mean, they just keep on making them. So obviously, there's some people who like them a lot. And to be honest, let's face it, when I was younger, anyway, I'd have been more keen on action than these lingering, wistful, insightful films that I now might enjoy. So
there's definitely truth in that. There's no doubt about that. But no, saying that. I suppose, but I was going along with your point. Like sometimes when I hear who has won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and when you go out and buy their book, and you're going, Jesus, who picked this? I went in one day, Jude, I was in Australia years ago, and I went into this house in the middle of nowhere, and there was this guy reading James Joyce. I know that it was one of these stream of consciousness, Ulysses or someone, one of the stream of consciousness novels. And I remember reading it for about 10 minutes one day, and I was like, right, do I want to live, or I'm going to read this crap? So, see, somebody, one of my intellectual friends, Pat, it's a brilliant book. Now, Jude, I don't normally swear on this program, but what I said to him, the second word was off.
Walk off.
Walk off,
slide off, or something like that. Okay.
Whatever. Yeah.
One thing I feel a wee bit uneasy about the Oscars is that it's a night out for them, per critics. So they need a bit of crack. And all organizations like to have an old hoolie every so often. So let them have a hoolie and let them get dressed up and let them, and people like seeing them arriving on the carpet and to see how low a neckline can be worn and so on. And who's taking who? Anyway,
it's basically, Jude, isn't it all sort of selling themselves? And it's all about commerce, and it's about making bucks and selling the product. Getting back to the thing, how fair and how above board is it? Does the best film win, or does the one that has done the most buying of the votes won?
Again and again, it has been proved that it's a very inexact science. Sometimes they give an Oscar to a really good movie that lasts, but very often they miss out on really gems that become classics after a while.
Yeah.
Don't forget also, Pat, that when you're young, you enjoy different types of things than you enjoy when you're older. And also, don't forget that there is such a thing as going out and dressing up and having a good nosh up and probably getting drunk and taking drugs and stuff. That's quite good fun for some people. Don't be denying people their fun just because you know.
And that's just down the road at Bridge End. Never mind Hollywood.
Okay, Pat. Thank you very much. See you later in the week.
Good luck. See you later. Catch